Good morning, brothers and sisters from St. Suzanne's and Jesus Light of the World. It's the weekend of January the 30th. It is cold. And the scripture passages for this Sunday, the second readings, I like to comment, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It says this in the second reading for this Sunday. I'd like to comment that with you. Brothers and sisters, strive for the greater gifts. I will show you a more excellent way of living your life. If I have many tongues and can speak many languages of the angels, but I do not have love, I'm a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. If I understand all things and all mysteries and have many PhDs, but I do not have love, it isn't worth anything. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful. I'd like to comment that. It flows from last week's second reading of 1 Corinthians chapter 12. One of the difficulties in our society is that we do not have an understanding of the word love. I would say that many, if not most, of the songs that we hear on the radio of various kinds of rap music says, I love your body, I love you, I want to love you all night long. What they really mean is, I want to have sex. That's what they mean. And in our contemporary culture, love and sex are pretty much the same thing. In fact, in many of the songs that you hear, remove the word love and just put the word sex, and now you've understood what they really mean. But in Christianity, it's really not about that. And I think we need to understand that in the Greek language, and the New Testament was written in Greek, there's not one word for love. There's actually four. There's the love of your children. That's called storge. I care for my children, my family. Philios. Philios is friendship. Two adults, two women, two men, two friends, sharing equal attention and care for each other. It's a wonderful thing, philios, but it has nothing to do with sex. Two men, two women can have beautiful philios without getting involved in that other stuff. There's a third word. So there's storge, there's philios, and then there's the word eros, which is basically erotic, sex, okay? That's the one that our society in its songs particularly talks about the most. But the biblical word, love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, is not eros or storge or philios. It's actually the word agape. Agape. The word agape, you need to substitute that in all these writings here. Agape means I give my life for you. I sacrifice myself that you may be well. I pour out my life that you may be better. That's what agape is. Christ gave his life for us. Jesus poured out his life that you might find life. It's sacrificial. And parents are doing that all the time, and people are doing it all the time. But that's rarely the word that's being used in our songs. You don't hear somebody say, I will pour out my life that you may be well, that you may find health, that you may find a good place to live. It's often self-focused on what do I get out of this sexual relationship. But that's not what St. Paul means at all. Love is agape. Agape is patient. Agape is kind. Agape is not envious. Agape is not boastful or rude. It does not insist on its own way. That's what needs to characterize our relationships, and especially our marriages. What can I do for you, honey, that your life may be better today? How can I serve you? Let me hear what's on your heart. Now this text flows because he says at the beginning of 1 Corinthians, let me show you a more excellent way. Last week in the second reading, he said, the church is like a body, In the body, there's an ear, there's hands, there's fingers, there's eyes, there's mouth. He said that's an image of the church. Well, it's actually an image of society, There are plumbers, electricians, accountants, there are grave diggers, there are people working at IGA, bus drivers, you name it. There's a variety. And if everybody, as St. Paul says here, if the hand says, I don't belong to the body, or if everything in the body was an eye, then who the heck would hear anything? If everybody was a bus driver, well, who the heck would fix our electrical problems? If everybody was a plumber, who would prepare our meals at our restaurants? Society requires a variety of talents: politicians, accountants, doctors, you name it, nurses. We need it all. Every job has a dignity. That's what St. Paul says. But what gives the dignity to the job is not what I do, but how I do it. That's the difference. St. Paul says that if I have all the plumbing skills in the world, but I do not do it with love and genuine care for people, I rip people off. I do a lousy job because I want to do it quickly. I want to make some money, get on with the job. If I'm an electrician and I do a sloppy job because I just want to get on with the next job and make more money, then you failed, says St. Paul. You failed. Because if you do it right. Why? Because I care about the people for whom I serve. If you work in a bank and you're dishonest, ripping people off, you're not doing a service of Christ. So when St. Paul says love is agape, love cares, love gives its life, what he's saying is our lives as Christians, regardless of what your job is, it doesn't matter what your job is, but if you do it with a spirit of generosity in the name of Christ, then you have been a success. And if you have the biggest degrees in the world and the biggest responsibility in the world, and you do it without genuine care for others, I think right now the terrible situation we're facing in Russia and Ukraine, where one of the political leaders has got an ego bigger than a mountain, and his only dream is to make himself greater and greater. At that point, he's destroying other people's lives. That's not agape, that's just arrogance. I have included in this info letter, if it interests you, the info letter is Jesus Let the World Perish. A story about it's a YouTube about Sister Monique, who's doing some work. She's a young woman from the West Island here who became a nun, and she's been a sister now for 30 years. And she's worked for many years in Brazil. She's a doctor, and she also has a PhD, working as a hospital administrator and a doctor in Sao Paulo. But now she's in Benin, and specific work that she's doing is really quite moving. Among other things, she's working with a team of people who are working with those who have mental illness, schizophrenia, manic depressive, whatever it might be. Because in certain parts of Benin, mental illness is not recognized as mental illness, but rather that they think people are possessed by the devil. And so what they do is they take people and they tie them up to poles with the chains. And so we have this frightening revelation in Benin of these individuals who are all tied to poles. They feed them a little bit, not too much, because if you feed them too much, the devil might not get out of them. They sometimes beat them. Shocking. People being treated less than animals. And the team of people she works with goes around with psychiatrists, and they undo the shackles. They treat the persons and bring them back into their dignity. And it's very moving to see. Of course, it's in French, but hopefully you can understand a bit of French. The dignity of these individuals and bring them back into their dignity as a human person. Very moving. I could never do that. I don't work in Benin. I live here in Montreal. But St. Paul says you don't need to go to Benin to do God's work. You just need to do it right here and now, where you are, with the people that you meet. That as you wake up today and think of the people around you and say, who could use a phone call? Who could use a walk in the outside together to talk? Who could use maybe a meal? Christ wants us to do whatever we can here and now. That's the life of a disciple. And so today, as you begin your day and as you go through your day, Lord, what can I do today to make somebody's life just a little better? May I live agape. And the surprising thing is, as I give my life, I find life. As I give agape, I find and experience the presence of Christ. So wish you a great day, everybody. A great weekend. Our masses, as you know, in Montreal will be opening up again starting on February the 7th. And so daily masses, weekend masses, come along. Of course, the same rules apply always. You have to wear a mask and keep your distance. That's it. Okay? So we look forward to seeing people back again in a few weeks there, and wish you courage. And be aware that the love of the Lord for you is beyond belief. And if you were the only human person in this world, God would still have sent his Son to save you. Having received such great love, how can we not, in our own little way, try to make the lives of others a gift and be blessed? So enjoy your day and a great weekend, everybody.